The hallway was a battlefield, and Emma Carter was losing. Her books spilled across the polished floor of Westbridge High, scattered like the fragments of her confidence, while laughter erupted from the crowd around her. Riley Kane, with her sharp green eyes and a smirk that cut deeper than words, stood at the center of it all, her voice ringing out. "Nice one, Klutz." It was senior year in the small town of Westbridge, Oregon, and Emma, 18, had spent 3 years dodging Riley's relentless taunts. She wasn't sure when it started. Maybe the day she tripped in freshman gym class, or when Riley caught her sketching in the library and mocked her dorky drawings. Whatever the spark, Riley had made Emma her target, and the wounds were piling up. Emma knelt to gather her books, her chestnut hair falling over her face like a curtain, hiding the sting in her brown eyes. She didn't cry, not anymore, but the weight of Riley's cruelty pressed against her chest, heavy and unyielding. Westbridge was the kind of town where everyone knew your business, where secrets were as rare as snow in July. Emma's family ran the local bookstore, a quaint shop filled with the scent of old paper and her mother's chamomile tea. It was her sanctuary, a place where she could lose herself in novels and sketch characters who lived braver lives than she did. But school was different. School was Riley's domain, where her leather jacket and quick wit made her untouchable, the queen of a court that thrived on her sharp tongue. Emma, quiet and bookish, was an easy mark. That afternoon, as Emma hurried out of school, the autumn air crisp against her skin, she felt a prickle at the back of her neck. Riley was leaning against the bike rack, her black hair catching the sunlight, watching her. Emma quickened her pace, but Riley's voice followed. "Running away again, Carter?" There was something different in her tone. Not the usual venom, but a challenge, almost playful. Emma didn't stop to find out. She couldn't afford to. At home, she retreated to her room, where fairy lights cast a soft glow over her sketches pinned to the wall. She opened her journal and began to draw, a figure with Riley's sharp jawline and piercing eyes, but softer, almost kind. It was a fantasy, a version of Riley that didn't exist. Emma hated how often she thought about her bully, how Riley's face crept into her art, her dreams. It wasn't just fear. It was something else, something confusing that made her heart race in ways she couldn't explain. The next day, everything changed. It was a Friday, and the school was buzzing with plans for the homecoming game. Emma, as usual, planned to skip it, but her English teacher, Miss Harper, had other ideas. "Emma, Riley, you're paired for the poetry project," she announced, her voice cutting through the classroom chatter. Emma froze, her pencil snapping in her hand. Riley, slouched at the back, raised an eyebrow, her smirk faltering for a split second. The class snickered, sensing drama, but Miss Harper was unmoved. "You'll work together after school in the library. No excuses." Emma wanted to protest, to beg for a different partner, but the words caught in her throat. After school, she dragged herself to the library, her stomach twisting. Riley was already there, sprawled across a chair, her boots propped on the table. "Let's get this over with," she said, but her eyes lingered on Emma, searching, almost curious. Emma sat across from her, clutching her notebook like a shield. They were supposed to analyze a love poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and the irony wasn't lost on Emma. Love was the last thing she associated with Riley Kane. As they read the poem, stumbling over lines about devotion and sacrifice, something shifted. Riley's usual sarcasm was muted, replaced by halting questions about the text. "What's this even mean?" she asked, pointing to a line about love enduring pain. Emma hesitated, then spoke softly, her voice steadying as she explained the poet's longing. The way love could be both beautiful and brutal. Riley listened, her green eyes locked on Emma's, and for the first time, there was no mockery, no cruelty. Just silence, heavy with something unspoken. By the time they finished, the library was nearly empty, the golden light of late afternoon spilling through the windows. Riley leaned back, her fingers tapping the table. "You're not what I thought," she said suddenly, her voice low. Emma's heart skipped, but she didn't know why. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked, bracing for a jab. But Riley just shrugged, her expression unreadable. "Figure it out, Carter." That night Emma couldn't sleep. Riley's words echoed in her mind, tangled with the memory of her gaze, the way it felt less like a weapon and more like a question. She didn't know what was happening, but something was unraveling. Something dangerous, something that felt like falling. The poetry project became a strange, fragile bridge between Emma and Riley. They met in the library 3 times a week, surrounded by the musty scent of old books and the hum of fluorescent lights. Emma arrived each time with her guard up, expecting Riley to revert to her old ways, but the sharp-tongued bully was different here. She was still cocky, still quick with a quip, but her barbs lacked their usual sting. Instead, she asked questions, real ones, about the poems, about Emma's thoughts, and once, almost shyly, about the sketches in Emma's notebook. "You draw a lot," Riley said one evening, her finger brushing the edge of a page where Emma had sketched a girl with stormy eyes. Emma snatched the notebook away, her cheeks burning. "It's nothing," she mumbled, but Riley's gaze lingered, curious, almost gentle. Emma didn't know what to make of it. She'd spent years building walls against Riley, and now those walls were cracking, letting in feelings she wasn't ready to name. Outside the library, school was still a minefield. Riley's friends, a tight-knit group of popular kids, still tossed insults Emma's way, though Riley herself stayed quiet, her eyes darting away when Emma passed. It confused her, this shift, like Riley was playing 2 roles. The untouchable queen in the halls and someone softer, more human, in the quiet of the library. Emma caught herself watching Riley during class, noticing the way she chewed her pen when she was thinking, the way her laugh softened when she wasn't performing for a crowd. It was dangerous, this noticing. It made Emma's chest ache in ways that felt like betrayal. One rainy afternoon, as they worked on their project, Riley leaned closer, her voice low. "Why don't you ever fight back?" she asked, her eyes searching Emma's. "When people mess with you, I mean, you just take it." Emma stiffened, her pencil pausing mid-sentence. "What's the point?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It doesn't stop people like you." Riley flinched just slightly, but enough for Emma to notice. "I'm not," Riley started, then stopped, her jaw tightening. "Forget it." The silence that followed was heavy, charged with something neither of them could name. Emma wanted to push, to ask what Riley meant, but fear held her back. Instead, she changed the subject, pointing to a line in the poem about forbidden love. Riley read it aloud, her voice soft, almost reverent, and Emma felt a shiver run through her. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Riley said them, like she understood something Emma didn't. That weekend, Emma's best friend, Mia, dragged her to the homecoming game, insisting she couldn't hide forever. Emma sat in the bleachers, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, trying to blend into the crowd. The air was electric with cheers and the scent of popcorn, but Emma's eyes kept drifting to Riley on the sidelines, laughing with her friends, her leather jacket slung over her shoulder. Then, as if sensing Emma's gaze, Riley looked up, their eyes locking across the field. For a moment the world fell away. No noise, no crowd, just Riley's green eyes holding Emma's, steady and unreadable. After the game, Emma slipped away, heading toward the bookstore to help her mom close up. The streets were quiet, the rain starting again, soft and cold. She was halfway there when she heard footsteps behind her. "Carter!" Riley's voice cut through the drizzle, and Emma turned, her heart pounding. Riley jogged up, her hair damp, her expression a mix of determination and something softer. "You left early," she said, almost accusingly. Emma shrugged, unsure what to say. "Why do you care?" she asked, her voice sharper than she meant. Riley hesitated, then stepped closer, the streetlight casting shadows across her face. "I don't know," she said, her voice raw. I saw you up there. And I couldn't stop thinking about you." Emma's breath caught, her mind reeling. This was Riley Kane, the girl who'd made her life hell, standing in the rain, looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. "What are you saying?" Emma whispered, her heart hammering. Riley opened her mouth, then closed it, her eyes flickering with something like fear. "I gotta go," she said abruptly, turning and disappearing into the night. Emma stood frozen, the rain soaking through her sweater, her mind a storm of questions. What was happening? Why did Riley's words feel like a confession? And why, despite everything, did Emma want to run after her? The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Emma and Riley's library meetings continued, but the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. Riley's teasing had stopped entirely, replaced by moments of quiet intensity, her hand brushing Emma's when passing a book, her eyes lingering a second too long. Emma felt it too, a pull she couldn't explain, a warmth that spread through her chest whenever Riley was near. But she was terrified. Terrified of what it meant, terrified of trusting the girl who'd hurt her for so long. At school, Riley's friends noticed the change. "What's up with you and the nerd?" One of them, Jake, sneered during lunch, loud enough for Emma to hear from her table across the cafeteria. Riley's face hardened, but she didn't laugh along like she used to. Instead, she muttered something sharp and left the table, leaving her friends exchanging confused looks. Emma watched, her fork frozen midair, her heart racing. Was Riley defending her? Or was it something else? One evening, as they worked late in the library, Riley broke the silence. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely audible. Emma looked up, startled. "For what?" she asked, though she knew. Riley's jaw clenched, her eyes fixed on the table. "For everything. The things I said, the way I made you feel." Emma's throat tightened. She wanted to believe it, but years of hurt held her back. "Why now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Riley met her gaze, her green eyes raw with something like pain. "Because I see you now," she said. "And I hate what I did." Emma didn't know how to respond. Part of her wanted to run, to protect herself from whatever this was. But another part, the part that had drawn Riley's face in her journal, that had felt her heart leap at Riley's touch, wanted to stay. "I don't understand you," Emma admitted, her voice soft. Riley gave a small, bitter laugh. "Yeah, well, I don't understand me either." The turning point came at the school's autumn festival, a tradition filled with hayrides, bonfires, and fairy lights strung across the town square. Emma's mom had a booth for the bookstore, and Emma was helping, stacking paperbacks under the glow of lanterns. She hadn't expected Riley to show up, but there she was, standing at the edge of the booth, her hands shoved in her pockets. "Need help?" Riley asked, her voice casual but her eyes nervous. Emma hesitated, then nodded, handing her a stack of books. They worked side by side, their shoulders brushing, their conversation stilted but warm. When the crowd thinned, Riley pulled Emma toward the bonfire, where kids were roasting marshmallows and laughing. "Come on," Riley said, her grin almost shy. "Live a little." Emma let herself be led, her heart pounding as they sat on a log, the firelight dancing across Riley's face. For the first time, Emma saw her not as the bully, but as a girl, scared, hopeful, human. "Do you ever feel like you're pretending?" Riley asked suddenly, her voice low, her eyes on the flames. Emma frowned. "Pretending what?" Riley shrugged, but her voice was heavy. "Like you're someone you're not. Like you're hiding something, and it's eating you up." Emma's breath caught. She knew that feeling, the weight of secrets, the fear of being seen. She nodded, unable to speak. Riley turned to her, her face inches away, her voice a whisper. "I'm tired of pretending, Emma." Before Emma could respond, a shout broke the moment. Jake and his friends, drunk on cheap beer, stumbling toward them. "Yo, Riley, what's this?" Jake slurred, gesturing at Emma with a sneer. "You slumming it now?" Riley stood, her fists clenched, her voice cold. "Back off, Jake." The crowd quieted, sensing a fight. Emma's heart raced, but she stood too, her hand brushing Riley's arm. "Let's go," she whispered. Riley hesitated, then followed, leaving Jake's taunts behind. They walked in silence to the edge of the festival, the night air cool against their skin. Under a canopy of stars, Riley stopped, turning to Emma. "I meant it," she said, her voice raw. "I'm done pretending." And then, before Emma could process it, Riley leaned in, her lips brushing Emma's in a kiss that was soft, tentative, and electric. Emma froze, then melted, her hands finding Riley's face, her heart a wildfire. When they pulled apart, Emma was trembling, but Riley's eyes were steady, shining with something like hope. The kiss changed everything. Emma walked home that night in a daze, her lips still tingling, her mind a storm of joy and fear. She'd never kissed anyone before, never felt her heart beat so fast it might burst. But this was Riley, who'd once made her cry in the bathroom, who'd laughed at her pain. How could she trust this? How could she trust herself? At school, the rumors spread like wildfire. Jake and his friends had seen the kiss, and by Monday, whispers followed Emma down the halls. "Dyke!" Someone hissed as she passed, and Emma's stomach twisted. She'd never labeled herself, never had the words for the feelings she buried deep. But now, with Riley's kiss still burning in her memory, she couldn't deny it. She was falling for a girl. And not just any girl, her former bully. Riley, for her part, seemed unfazed by the gossip. She walked into English class with her usual swagger, but her eyes sought Emma's, soft and searching. When their hands brushed under the table, Emma felt a jolt, a mix of fear and longing. "Meet me after school," Riley whispered, and Emma nodded, her throat too tight to speak. They met at the hill overlooking the town, where the autumn leaves blazed red and gold. Riley sat cross-legged on the grass, her leather jacket discarded beside her. "I'm sorry about Jake," she said, her voice low. "He's an idiot." Emma sat beside her, hugging her knees. "It's not just him," she said. "It's everyone. They're talking, Riley." Riley's jaw tightened, but her hand found Emma's, her fingers warm and steady. "Let them talk," she said. "I don't care anymore." Emma wanted to believe her, but the fear was a knot in her chest. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What are we doing?" Riley looked at her, her green eyes fierce. "I like you, Emma," she said. "I've liked you for a while. I was too messed up to admit it." Emma's heart stuttered. "You hurt me," she said, the words spilling out. "For years, Riley." "Why?" Riley's face crumpled, and for the first time Emma saw tears in her eyes. "I was scared," Riley admitted. "Of who I was, of what I felt. Hurting you, it was easier than facing it." The confession hit Emma like a wave, washing away some of the pain but leaving questions in its wake. She wanted to be angry, to hold on to the hurt, but Riley's hand in hers felt like an anchor, grounding her in something real. "I don't know how to do this," Emma said, her voice barely audible. Riley squeezed her hand. "Me neither. But I want to try." They spent the rest of the afternoon on the hill, talking, laughing, sharing pieces of themselves they'd kept hidden. Riley told Emma about her dad, a strict military man who'd never accept her if he knew the truth. Emma shared her own fears, her mom's expectations, her own uncertainty about who she was. By the time the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink, Emma felt lighter, like she could breathe for the first time in years. But the world wasn't kind to girls like them. The next day, Emma found a note taped to her locker, the word "freak" scrawled in red marker. She tore it down, her hands shaking, but the damage was done. At lunch, Riley slid into the seat beside her, ignoring the stares. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. Emma nodded, but her eyes were wet. Riley's hand found hers under the table, a silent promise. "We'll get through this," she said. "Together." That night, Emma's mom noticed her quiet mood. "What's going on, sweetheart?" she asked, setting a mug of tea in front of Emma. Emma hesitated, then told her everything, the bullying, the kiss, the feelings she couldn't untangle. Her mom listened, her face calm but her eyes worried. "I just want you to be happy," she said finally. "But be careful, Emma. Love is complicated, especially when it's new." Emma nodded, but her heart was already too far gone. Winter came to Westbridge, blanketing the town in snow and silence. Emma and Riley grew closer, stealing moments in the bookstore after hours, holding hands under blankets at the movies, kissing in the quiet of Riley's car. But the world pushed back. Riley's dad found out about them when Jake's gossip reached him, and he grounded her, his anger a wall between them. At school, the taunts grew louder, and Emma's sketches became her refuge, filled with images of Riley, her smile, her eyes, her strength. One night, Riley climbed through Emma's window, her face pale, her hands trembling. "He kicked me out," she said, her voice breaking. "Told me I'm a disgrace." Emma pulled her into a hug, her heart aching. "You can stay here," she said, and her mom, after a long talk, agreed. Riley slept on the couch, but at night, she'd sneak into Emma's room, curling up beside her, their whispers filling the dark. The final blow came at the spring talent show. Emma had entered a poetry reading, a piece she'd written about love and courage, inspired by Riley. Riley was there, front row, her eyes shining with pride. But as Emma stepped onto the stage, Jake and his friends heckled, their voices cutting through her words. Emma froze, her voice faltering, until Riley stood, her presence a shield. "Keep going," she mouthed, and Emma did, her voice growing stronger with every line. When she finished, the crowd erupted, drowning out the jeers, and Riley's smile was brighter than the stage lights. After the show, they walked to their hill, the air cool and sweet with the promise of spring. Riley took Emma's hand, her voice steady. "I love you," she said, the words simple but seismic. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "I love you too," she whispered, and they kissed, the world fading away. It wasn't perfect, their town, their families, their fears, but it was theirs, a love built from pain and redemption, strong enough to face whatever came next. Years later, Emma would look back on that moment as the start of everything. They left Westbridge after graduation, moving to Portland, where they built a life together. Messy, beautiful, real. Riley became a photographer, capturing the world's raw beauty, while Emma's sketches turned into graphic novels, telling stories of love and resilience. They faced challenges, prejudice, doubt, their own scars, but they faced them together, their hands always finding each other in the dark. Their love wasn't just a happy ending. It was a testament to forgiveness, to the courage it takes to change, to the power of seeing someone for who they truly are. From a school bully to her first love, Riley taught Emma that even the hardest hearts could soften, and Emma taught Riley that even the quietest voices could roar. Together they proved that love in all its forms was worth fighting for. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.